Hello and welcome into a very special pre-Christmas edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. Of course, shout out to our friends at OG's Brands, the official sponsor of Flavoring Fridays. Head on over to ogsbrands.com to see their full lineup and find out where you can purchase. And I stole this bag from Max. This is my bag now. Welcome in. Of course, my name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as a Noble Fur. A ski to you all. Of course, this is my non-holiday dressed elf himself, the one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman, who is not in the spirit of the afternoon.
It's cloudy outside, Derek. I don't know what to do with myself.
This man lived in Seattle.
Why are you wearing Christmas lights?
Because, Jesse, it is my last day before my Christmas vacation where I get to leave and let you take care of the show for a week. So that's it's mostly an in-your-face to you. It's also just the way I felt like dressing today, because here we are. It's this weekend. Can't wait. For me personally, it is the most Puerto Rican I get all year round, because it's when all of our traditions come in.
A range of Puerto Ricanness.
Yes, there is a range. Yes, and most of the time, I'm not going to even trouble myself with going through all the steps to cook proper red beans and rice and tostones and stink up my house like fried foods. But for one spectacular weekend, I'm absolutely going to do that. I'm slow smoking this big piece of pork it's called pernil, and you put a bunch of seasoning under the skin, and then it's amazing. And so this is it. I'm excited for this weekend. My daughter is still somewhat of a child, even though she did have, Jesse, her first banger of a TikTok apparently last night that got a lot of attention. She's very excited about that. She is insufferable to live with right now. Leah Merrill asks, is Jesse the Grinch? Quite possibly. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But one thing that Santa did bring us, of course, is that the Lourdes Gurriel signing is official. And there was not a huge corresponding move that took place. The Arizona Diamondbacks did designate Diego Castillo for assignment, but the Lourdes signing is official. So he is, of course, part of the Diamondbacks now. We knew that was going to happen. He is going to be speaking to media at 3:00 today. So we should have more for you when Lourdes speaks. But this morning we did get a chance to talk to Mike Hazen, who was in an undisclosed location somewhere in the world. There were rumors that it was in Antarctica, but he was not dressed warmly enough for that. So I have no idea where he actually was. But Mike had a lot to say in regards to Lourdes and, basically what he meant to this team. I did find it interesting, Jesse, that I think you may have asked this question, but they didn't really have any kind of advantage to dealing with Lourdes as someone that was already on this roster. In fact, it seemed quite the opposite. There were some hurdles that they had to get past in order to negotiate with him. And then when they did, it was basically like negotiating with any other free agent that wasn't necessarily part of your team.
Yeah, this was a bizarre contract that Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was on.
It really was.
What was described to us today by Mike Hazen is that the Diamondbacks did not have the ability to negotiate with him. Apparently, the earliest that they could have re-signed Lourdes Gurriel, what Mike said, was well into the 2024 season, which does not make any sense to me whatsoever. Why the player would benefit from an arrangement like that? Certainly, the team does not benefit from that arrangement. I don't know why language like that winds up in contracts, but Mike said that this is not just a Lourdes only thing, that this is a situation encountered elsewhere. But basically in the month of October, in early October, the Diamondbacks sort of renegotiated the terms of the contract that Lourdes already had to allow them to actually negotiate with him in the same way that other teams would. Otherwise, they would have been sort of left out to dry, and they just would not have had the ability to bring Lourdes back. It sounds like Lourdes and his camp were willing to do that. And so This started at the GM meetings into the winter meetings. These conversations are being had. And then Mike said last week is when the D-backs really decided to go forward and make this happen. And 3 years, $42 million. There's also an opt-out after the second year. There's a club option as well for a fourth year. It sounds like that was sort of a little bit of give and take on both sides, with Lourdes getting that opt-out, and then the D-backs also getting a potential extra year of control if they want it. So yeah, by all means, a fair contract that followed a very bizarre one. And I don't know what the Blue Jays were thinking or how this happened.
I
but,
don't understand it either. Yeah,
very bizarre situation.
It would have essentially been their problem to deal with had he not been traded, right? And I mean, it is a bizarre clause, especially considering, like Mike said, it would have completely removed the Diamondbacks from actually being able to negotiate with him, right?
Sure.
So, but I mean, also, he was asked a couple of things when it comes to just Lourdes' impact on this team, and you can't help but look at the options that were out there and think that even though this was a guy that was already part of this organization, obviously there's a lot of positives in regards to him returning and keeping this team, this core together as much as possible. There's also the fact that he really was one of the best outfielders available on the free agent market. So it was just it seemed to absolutely make the most sense. I think Jack Summers asked if Lourdes was like their number one target, and yeah, they said that of course he was a big priority for them.
Yeah, in terms of upgrading the outfield, yes, it sounds like Lourdes was basically the top priority, and you can understand why. Scouring the market, there's just not really anyone else like him available in free agency, at least. I know there's Teoscar Hernandez out there. He's a little bit more of a heavy swing and miss guy.
Yeah.
Has had some really good offensive seasons in the past. I think the price tag there might have been a little bit higher. And frankly, the Mariners, when they had Eugenio Suarez and Teoscar Hernandez on the same team, they had a strikeout problem. And I don't think the D-backs necessarily wanted to, sort of take that issue on themselves by having both of those guys. Obviously, the D-backs have plenty of other hitters who make a decent amount of contact. It probably wouldn't have been as big of an issue. But yeah, in free agency and even in the trade market, we talked about some different guys, Lane Thomas, Anthony Santander, Randy Arozarena. It always seemed unclear how any of those deals was actually going to happen. And I imagine that Lourdes was just kind of the most realistic, the simplest option to getting this done. Obviously, there's familiarity there as well. And Diamondbacks seem very, very excited to have him back, not only on the field, but in the clubhouse as well.
Diego Castillo has been DFA'd, and that part I think maybe is a little bit of a letdown, because I think we were hoping for maybe a bigger deal to be put in place, right? But interestingly enough, Mike Hazen was asked about their catcher situation, and if the catcher they recently picked up, was it Hernandez?
Yeah.
If he was going to be a potential backup or potential option for backing up Gabby Moreno on the main roster,
right?
And Mike made it sound like yes, but they're still going after other catchers, like that they're not done yet potentially with catchers. And we know backup catcher has been a big kind of question mark for them. He did say that these guys would be involved in the competition for that role, but he also made it sound like they definitely weren't done pursuing players in the free agency market.
No, it still sounds like their backup catcher is still out there. That would be my guess. Rolando Hernandez certainly a candidate, as well as Jose Herrera. We know that for sure. But I still get the sense that they would like to add there if they can.
Sure.
And perhaps the biggest takeaway, Derek, is that the Diamondbacks are looking to add another hitter. Something that, there have been reports about this out already. Most of those reports, however, indicated that the Diamondbacks are looking for a right-handed hitter in particular.
Yep.
And today, Mike Hazen did not say that. He said that given the addition of Eugenio Suarez, as well as bringing back Lourdes Gurriel, he said that they have flexibility to add either a left or a right-handed hitter. And we're going to get, obviously, we've talked at length about all the right-handed hitting DH options out there. We're going to talk about some left-handed options a little bit later in the show.
But Mike did say that this team, when asked if the heavy lifting was done as far as the acquisitions in free agency goes, that they weren't, that the lifting was not done.
Yeah, we have a clip here from Mike answering that question about whether the D-backs have kind of done the majority of their work or whether there's still some work left to be done.
That's a hard question to answer. No, I don't really feel like the lifting is done. I feel like we've certainly added to our team. I think our team on paper starting out next season is going to be in a very similar, if not slightly better position than what we started out 2023 with, which that's a decent starting point. I think the competitiveness within our division is going to still require us to continue to upgrade the roster any way we can.
That's exciting.
He does not sound satisfied with where the Diamondbacks are now. Yeah.
He actually said that, I think at one point, and I could be, you know me, I could be misquoting him because I do that. But he basically said something to the extent of he feels like the team is in the exact same place it was at the beginning of this year as it was at the beginning of last year. How?
Yeah.
What world? How?
I had this.
Do we not remember what last year was like?
That is a very fair point. That comment stood out to me as well. Yeah, he basically said, you know, we've done some work. We've made our roster better. We're in as good a position, if not like a little better than where they were at the beginning of the 2023 season.
My God.
Which, yeah, I think
you're
that
in a much better position.
I think the D-backs are in much better position because not only is that, you know, the addition of Eugenio Suarez, who the D-backs did not have at the beginning of 2023. Obviously, they did have Lourdes. The D-backs did not have Eduardo Rodriguez at the beginning of 2023. And they also did not have the bullpen that they do now with Paul Sewald, you know, locked into that closing role, as well as Ryan Thompson into the 7th inning role. Those are some pretty major, I mean, that's a pretty major piece on offense. That's a major piece in the rotation. That's 2 significant pieces in the bullpen. I don't buy that the D-backs right now are in a similar position as they were at the beginning of 2023. At the end of 2023, you could sort of make a case. I think the team is certainly better than that. The Eduardo Rodriguez addition in itself was certainly a big move there. But yeah, comparing now to the beginning of 2023, Mike needs to pat himself on the back a little bit more than he did in that.
I think that's the biggest thing is, like, you cannot say that. This team is in a completely different place, not only spending wise, but obviously it's because, you know, this team had success. This team has confidence. They believe that they can do this after, you know, all that they accomplished. But the other thing here, to mix it with Mike saying that the heavy lifting isn't done yet, is the fact that he talked about getting the support financially from ownership and that this team has been spending more than they expected to, and that they are reinvesting back into the team. And this is what Mike had to say.
Incredible. It's what you want. I think Ken Derek have always been consistent with telling us that, you know, if we prove that we have a winning team that's going on the field, that we will have more to invest into the team. And I think it's a fair position to take, and one that was kind of always operated in. If you go back to 2017, 18, that was also the case, I think, by the end of 18. And I think that's the fair operating position that we sort of understood is going to be the case. So we're very appreciative of that. I hope our players, and I think our players will be appreciative of that too, that we are continuing to try to find ways to build upon what they created for us last year. And I think it's a reflection of all the hard work that our players put in the last season. And hopefully, you know, that's something that we're going to have moving forward. Now it's going to be up to us to continue to keep it here.
It's not it's not how much money you spend, it's how you spend the money, right? And that's the thing. Mike Hazen has been very good right now at acquiring talent on kind of a shoestring budget. And now he's kind of being given that opportunity to go and pursue players that he covets a bit and feels like can truly get this team to the next level. And it's hard to imagine what that next level is considering their success last year.
Do you realize, Derek, what you've done to me by wearing what you're wearing? Everyone in the chat is now like giving me a hard time that I didn't get the memo.
That's not my fault, Jesse.
The reality is
not my
that
fault.
Me and Derek, I don't know how I have to explain this, but me and Derek do not exactly coordinate our outfits on a daily basis.
That is true.
What happens is I wear my normal professional attire.
You did not ask me what I was wearing today.
I show up and I see Derek wearing something like this, and I am not in the least surprised. These are the day-to-day operations of the PHNX D-back show. There's no coordination that happens.
The normal professional attire comment really seemed like a shots
it's
fired
a dig,
type of
right?
situation,
It was
right?
a dig. See, here's the thing: is as we wrap up this year, because this is our final show together, I believe, of 2023.
Why do you have to make such an emotional?
I do have to make it emotional.
Derek.
There is
I'm
no
not gonna do a
better
show with you until next
example.
year.
Look at the two of us. Look at the two of us. There's no better example of the difference in personalities on this
Is
show.
Jesse
than the way we're
implying that
dressed
what
right
you're
now.
wearing is not professional attire?
I feel like
I mean, I think
was.
that's exactly what I'm implying.
You can't
I
even
don't
see it on camera, but I light up. I mean, come on, it's lit. I'm lit.
We
Anyway.
should have shown a picture of the two of us at the holiday party
Yes.
last week because
Oh,
it
that
had
was
a
the best
similar
one.
vibe.
Yeah,
we
I
were
think Danielle
both,
took a credible picture of us standing together.
yeah, and Damon's in there too. We both
Yeah, no worries, Derek.
You leave me out of every invite to every event, and you know it. Don't even start with me.
I was wearing a suit coat, and I think you were also wearing a suit
I
coat.
was wearing a suit,
Technically,
a tie. I was wearing a suit. It was incredible. I looked incredible.
but yours were, what was it, like bright red and green?
There were some deers on mine and
Yeah,
stuff like reindeer.
yeah.
Reindeer, I guess you could say. But yeah, there's definitely a difference.
I do
between the two of
appreciate
us.
Rattleback saying that these are some festive khakis.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
that's
are
what
very
that's what I
festive.
was aiming for.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Something we do agree on, though, is how delicious Sombreros is, by the way. We also know that Sombreros is a family-owned and operated business that offers an incredible breakfast combo that you can get $5 for a breakfast burrito and a coffee. And again, I've talked about this, but getting horchata in your coffee, outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. So you can't.
I
I'm
very
telling you,
desperately need to try that.
You need to try
as
that
soon as possible.
Another
Yeah.
great thing about Sombreros is they can cater your event. They got easy party platters to feed a crowd. They have a taco bar to impress your amigos and margaritas to go, which, I'm a big fan of that. So let Sombreros cater all your holiday fiestas, big or small. Order online or find one near you by visiting Sombreros.com. Seasons eatings with Sombreros. And of course, BetMGM helps make the sports you watch more fun, especially if you've been watching some of these Valley teams lately. Thank you to the Coyotes for doing their thing. But, of course, right now you can get down on the BetMGM Sportsbook app, maybe bet on the Coyotes. Remember when we were betting against the Coyotes for so long? Bet on the Coyotes. Do it now. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app. If you do and sign up with our code of PHNX, you can get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your bet loses. All you have to do is sign up for BetMGM, use bonus code PHNX, place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the mobile application of at least $10. If that bet loses, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer. No,
1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
Ontario. Someone asked me earlier if I'm going to be making coquito. You absolutely know I'm going to be making some coquito, but I'm not going to be sharing it with these monsters that let like 3 jars expire in the company refrigerator last Christmas. I'll never forget that. But
I, for the record, did not know that you would put those jars in there, and I don't think I realized until after that expiration already happened. So you have to communicate better, Derek.
If you're a fan of eggnog, make yourself some coquito. I'm just going to tell you that now. You can figure it out. There's recipes online. You're smart people. But again, we talked about the Arizona Diamondbacks not being done when it comes to adding to this team. And now that we know that they could be going after not just right-handed hitters, but also left-handed hitters, let's talk about some targets that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. And of course, if we're going to bring back Tommy Pham, we know the first person that we have to pursue to bring over to this team has to be Jock Peterson, right? It has to be Jock Peterson.
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
We needed to get one more Tommy Pham, Jock Peterson joke in before the end of the year. It's part of our quota. But Jock Peterson, again, a pretty damn good hitter himself and could potentially be a little bit of a bargain, would you say?
Yeah. I don't think the price there would be too crazy. I think it would be within the Diamondbacks budget for sure. Do we have Jock Peterson stats? Is that a thing? Is that a thing that we have?
Yes, let's take a look at those.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Let's do it. So
you didn't call for them yet. You acted like that was like.
Yeah, I just I can't really read what's on the screen.
He did a bad job of throwing it to you. He threw you right under the bus with that. I saw how that whole thing went down.
I just was like, Damon, did you do your job? Damon was like, yes, I did.
Yeah, I did my
Why
job.
are you asking?
Why are you, this is brutal. Why are you just, can't you transition better than this, Jesse? Like, that's what he's thinking.
All right. So Jock Peterson in 2023 at 235, 348, 416 with the San Francisco Giants, 15 homers, 51 RBI. He was worth 0.6 FWAR, as we like to say. Former San Francisco Giant, so I don't know, and Los Angeles Dodger, so I don't know how people feel about Jock Peterson in some ways, but if the D-backs are looking for a lefty to provide some value at the plate, Jock Peterson is one of the primary options out there that at least would make sense to me. Cody Bellinger, of course, is also out there. The D-backs are not going to sign Cody Bellinger, so we're just going to kind of gloss over that and go to some more affordable options. And yeah, Jock Peterson has been a reasonably consistent hitter throughout his time in the majors. There have been some ups and downs. His 2023 season was certainly not as good as his 2022 season. But the issue that I have here, Derek, is that if you're going after a righty, it is easier to find someone at a reasonable price who can be productive against both righties and lefties. If you're going after a lefty, you're going to have to spend some money or spend some trade capital, I guess I should say, in order to land someone who is productive against both. Jock Peterson has long been a hitter, never really consistently hit lefties all that well. And that was the case again for him. If I can find these numbers, that was the case again for him in 2023. He had a 606 OPS, hit 186 against lefties compared to a 786 OPS against righties.
And the Diamondbacks arguably have guys within their organization right now that could put up these kind of numbers, especially when you consider his lack of success against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, it would have to be, if you get Jock Peterson, to me it kind of has to be a platoon situation where you're putting Emmanuel Rivera, I guess.
We're not doing that anymore.
I guess Emmanuel Rivera starts against
those days
lefties.
Are over.
I don't know.
Daniel Rivera, but we don't want to do the platoon thing.
He was okay.
Pursue it.
He was okay against lefties. But the D-backs also have a center fielder in Alec Thomas who has not been all that productive against lefties at all, right? He has majorly struggled against lefties. I know he was a little better in the postseason, but he certainly still has a lot to prove before they could count on him every day. So I think it's important that whomever they get, they wind up that they're in an okay position against left-handed pitching. If you get someone like a Jock Peterson, I have some questions about what that lineup would look like.
That's a good point. Well, there is another guy available that's a left-handed bat who we know absolutely rakes at Chase Field.
Yeah.
And that's Brandon Belt. Let's take a look at Brandon Belt's numbers. I would love to specifically just look at his numbers for Chase Field, but Brandon Belt, again, just an absolute maniac when it came to hitting here. His 2023 season, he averaged 254 with a 369 on-base percentage and a 490 slugging percentage, 19 home runs, 43 RBI, and a FWAR of 2.3.
Yeah, Brandon Belt is fascinating because these numbers are bomb, man.
Yeah, they're really good.
Like 254, 369, 490. Brandon Belt is 35 years old. He is a strictly platoon hitter. Like Jock Peterson, you could start him against some lefties and, whatever. Brandon Belt, I don't think you want to do that. His numbers against lefties in 2023 were even worse than that of Jock Peterson. He had a 572 OPS against lefties. I mean, I guess you could give him a few starts if you had to. But compared to an 890 OPS against righties,
sure.
I mean, he was able to produce quite a bit of value because of that. I mean, 2.3 wins above replacement from a guy who's not really giving you really any defensive value. He started 69 games at DH, 29 games at first base. I knew you were going to say that. So yeah, he found a way to be pretty productive, even though at this stage in his career, he's not really giving you anything against left-handed pitching. But he also struck out a ton. That's sort of the other factor here. His strikeout rate was 34.9%, which is in the first percentile around baseball. So there is a ton of swing and miss. And I do think for that reason, there's some concern that things could kind of fall apart for Brandon Belt in the near future.
And how do I get past my personal feelings, Jesse? Like Kyle says here, I would hate Belt on principle because the man haunts my dreams. And the man does haunt my dreams. There's a lot of articles I had to rewrite because of Brandon Belt, if I'm being honest. I think that as a journalist, that's what I take the most exception to.
He had a 91st percentile barrel rate, So
Good God.
again, barrels are like those ideal batted balls that are often going for extra base hits, doubles, triples, homers.
Yeah.
Probably more doubles than homers for Brandon Belt. But yeah, he was extremely good in that regard. He did not chase pitches out of the zone hardly at all. 17.9% chase rate. So he's really good at laying off those pitches outside of the strike zone, but he had a very high whiff rate. So he wasn't chasing out of the zone too much, but he's swinging and missing a lot at pitches, but not only outside the zone, but inside the zone as well. And that often happens as players age. You know, you just wind up being able to make less contact in the zone. We kind of saw that with Evan Longoria this past season, especially toward the end. So there's a decent amount of risk here, but he also, out of the 3 players that we're talking about in this segment, Brandon Belt was by far the most productive according to wins above replacement.
And Kevin brings up the most important part. Brandon Belt, born on 420.
There you go.
Throw a 69 on that man, and it might be perfection. I don't know. But anyway, we do have one more name that we wanted to bring up, and that, of course, another left-handed bat, since that's the theme of today's show, is Carlos Santana, which I just love for the name alone. But again, another guy that could be very productive based on his 2023 stats, and not sure what the cost would be there. But again, if the Diamondbacks now aren't really being super choosy about whether it's a left-handed or right-handed, bat they could bring in, he could definitely bring some offense to this team.
Yeah, Carlos Santana. Shout out Carlos Santana. Hardcore carried my fantasy team back in the mid 2010s. Very underrated, Derek. If you play in a points league where walks and strikeouts matter, Carlos Santana very underrated because he has always walked a ton. These are his numbers from 2023. Of course, there's maybe some familiarity here for D-backs fans, given that Carlos Santana was a member of the Brewers into the postseason. A 240 batting average in 2023 overall, 318 on base, 429 slugging percentage, 23 homers, 86 RBI. Basically graded out is just above a league average hitter, 1.7 wins above replacement. He actually graded out quite well defensively at first base, which is interesting. That was kind of a central part of how Carlos Santana was valuable this past season, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the D-backs necessarily because they obviously already have Christian Walker in place at first. So while it seems like they would like to have some positional flexibility in whomever they acquire for the spot, I'm not sure that, getting someone who has as much defensive value as Carlos Santana has would make a ton of sense. They just wouldn't really be in a position to take advantage of that. So yeah.
I'm starting to do a scratcher, Jesse, because I need to, again, do everything I can to do my part in adding to the Diamondbacks economic windfall that they have to splurge on players. Am I going to share this with them? Perhaps not, but I'm going to buy a whole lot of Sonoran dogs should I win big on this one right here.
What's the max value of that?
The max value of this one, Jesse, that I hold my hand is $500,000. So if we hit on this one, this might be a wrap. When I said this is the last show of the year for us, it might actually be, because me and this guy, we're out of here if we win $500,000. But the Diamondbacks off their scratcher when it comes to their free agency season, their off season, and we continue to scratch off scratchers here to see if I win. Of course, holiday scratchers from Arizona Lottery do make excellent last-minute shopping gifts, of course, for this guy next to me, who I know hasn't even started yet. They also make amazing stocking stuffers. It's my wife's favorite gift to get in the stocking. There's a scratcher for everyone on your list, and they start off at just $1. And again, this one I hold in my hand could win me and Jesse up to $500,000. And I said, just me and Jesse. Max is standing in unnecessarily close proximity, and Damon continues to leave me off of every dude trip that he tries to schedule. So now he wants to get down on my winnings. See, everybody wants to come out of the woodwork and get down on your winnings once you have one of these big dogs.
We'll each take 40%, and then Damon gets 20.
That seems fair.
Maybe 45, give Damon 10.
Fair. Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, we could tip Max out, but we'll figure it out. Go out and buy your holiday scratchers today. Find a retailer like our friends at Circle K near you at ArizonaLottery.com. Must be 21 or older to play. And yes, stop by Circle K. Get yourself some holiday scratchers there. Get yourself some gas. Fill yourself up. It's America's thirst stop. Get one of their amazing roller items. We were just talking yesterday about how, cheeseburgers on a roller do exist, and they exist at Circle K, and they're better than you can imagine. Circle K has amazing snacks, including all of their Circle K branded snacks, which are not to be slept on. We finally got baked goods in here from Circle K, and it was just in time for Sean DePaz to no longer work in this office, and I just want him to know that they're elite. And just having Circle K baked goods in here every day that Sean isn't makes me smile.
Hollywood
because I know how
DePaz
much
doesn't
he
watch
wanted
this
them.
show.
Oh yeah, he doesn't.
Hollywood DePaz is way too big time for this
That's
show.
very
Hollywood
true.
DePaz.
That's very true. But he was a big part of the inner circle with me, and you can be too, of course, because if you join the inner circle for free right now by downloading the Circle K app today, you can save on your gasoline, of course, which, like I said, things are going up and down with gasoline, but you can save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You also save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But yeah, get down now. You can get down on the 31 days of Circle K in the Inner Circle app. Free prizes, snacks, weekly entries into grand prizes, and more. You also can get your Arizona lottery tickets over at Circle K. And like I was telling Mr. Friedman over here, if you win big on those up to $599, I believe, you can go back to Circle K and get your money directly from them, which could help you big during this time of the year, because I myself am tapped out in spending, but I do I'm sure I have some things I need to buy this weekend before we get to the big day. Of course, we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our other wonderful shows go live or when we go live. Leave us a little thumbs up. We always appreciate those likes, those attaboys. We will not take them in a weird way. We will just accept your adulation and appreciate it. But if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we didn't forget about you. Make sure you subscribe there. We love you too. Leave us a review. We appreciate the 5-star reviews over there as well. And now, I mean, there's a lot of...
Carlos Santana is a switch hitter. I just want to make sure that we make that clear. I realize I neglected to say that from the top.
Sure.
So yeah, he's a switch hitter. And so he doesn't really fit into the same category as Brandon Belt and Jock Peterson in that he can actually hold his own against left-handed pitching. So yeah, he functionally is, I believe, better as a left-handed hitter, so better against righties. So he sort of functions in some ways as a left-handed hitter in that he's better against right-handed pitching, but the split is not as significant as it is with Brandon Belt and with Jock Peterson.
Okay. And we've figured out the winning ticket thing. You get 33%. I get 33%. Damon gets 33%. Max gets the remaining 1%. That seems fair.
Yeah,
that seems fair.
Max basically gets like the rounding error leftovers.
Right. I mean,
makes sense.
Talking about money, of course, it's now time to infuriate you and me and everyone with talking about the Dodgers being the ones that get Yamamoto. As you all know, Yamamoto is signed to the Dodgers for a 12-year, $325 million deal. They have now invested over, I believe, $1.5 billion or something into the 3 players.
It's not quite
1.25
right?
billion. It's an absurd amount of
money.
money.
1.1 billion. Yeah, don't be unreasonable.
Well, those
are
just those 2 guys. You're forgetting about Tyler Glasnow.
Well, but Tyler Glasnow is he's cheap compared to those guys.
You're
right?
absolutely right.
Tyler Glasnow is 0.135, right? Because it was 135 inches.
It just makes me sick. Doesn't it make you sick? I mean, and again, I know that the Dodgers are taking a huge gamble here on a guy that has never played in Major League Baseball, and we covered that before. We even joked when all reports were saying he was going to go to the Yankees that this indeed meant he was going to the Dodgers, which we didn't even know how right we possibly could have been in the moment. But man, it feels wrong. And I think that's the big thing that this entire situation illustrates is once again the difference in baseball between the haves and the have-nots and how big that gap is between them. The Dodgers can spend all of this money and still not have it, if it goes wrong, not have it be critical to the franchise. You know what I mean? They could almost just kind of brush it off and say, well, that deal didn't go great. Man, we got to be careful. We don't do that again. But it's not going to ruin the franchise like it would more than half of the teams in baseball if they made that kind of investment in a player that didn't end up working out.
Yeah, 12 years, $325 million. I know we talked on this show about how we kind of saw him heading to the Yankees ultimately, or at least not heading to the Dodgers, just because they are not a team that often spends at the very top of the market. It seemed like Shohei Ohtani was the rare exception, the unicorn type player that would allow them to do that. But apparently there were two unicorns in this free agent class. Yamamoto obviously coming over at just 25 years old, something you basically never see a player that young in free agency, especially a player as talented as Yamamoto is believed to be. There is considerable risk here for the Dodgers on all three of these players that they've made investments in, right? Shohei Ohtani, we've talked so much about the $700 million, what the present day value is, all that. They're still giving a heck of a lot of money to a player who just had his second Tommy John, whatever we want to call it, elbow surgery, which comes with a lot of risk. Like, not that many guys are able to come back from a second TJ and still be the same pitcher that they were before. That is not a guarantee. His hitting, moving forward, certainly feel good about that. And we talked yesterday about the business ramifications for them. You can understand why the Dodgers made the investment. It makes a ton of sense for them. But at the same time, it is not without risk. There is a world in which Ohtani, he probably does pitch again. I think that's a pretty safe assumption. But how long does he pitch? Is he a pitcher for 7 years of this contract, or is he a pitcher for 3 years of this contract? Like, I think those are very valid questions to ask. Tyler Glasnow, obviously the extensive injury history there. He's also had Tommy John surgery. There have been some lingering effects of that. And then Yamamoto is a guy who has yet to throw a pitch in the majors. Not to say that he will not be good. I very much think he will. I don't want to use that against him too much. But he hasn't exactly proven that he is a 12-year, $325 million type player.
He's also 175 pounds sopping wet. And that's going to be my play.
Yeah,
he can't pitch at this level because he's 5'9", 170.
There is, I think that there are some valid concerns there for sure. That, even though he's been very durable, it seems, up to this point in his career, but Yamamoto is a type of guy, as many innings as he's thrown in Japan up to this point, like, he could be in like Madison Bumgarner territory as far as innings go when he gets to like 29, 30 years old. Madison Bumgarner obviously kind of broke down at that point, and he's a much bigger guy than Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So there is, that's another reason that there is quite a bit of risk here for the Dodgers. Even if he is everything they want him to be over the next few years, there's a risk that, 5 years from now, he's not taking any of those opt-outs. He's staying into this contract, and it sounds like it's a little bit backloaded, and the Dodgers are going to be, potentially paying a lot of money to a player who's not really worth that at some point.
It's the reason why the entire Shohei Ohtani situation was so frustrating and, kind of infuriated the baseball world, is not only do they have the money to pay him, but they got the deferral thing. They figured out a way to circumvent a bit of the tax of what they're going to get hit with as far as their, of their salary base and what's taxed on the competitive balance tax. And like that, all of that is frustrating, that then they can go out and get the other big name on the market, which of course deferring Ohtani's salary allowed them, to even consider this. And, again, there is no way to know if these guys are going to be worth the money that this team is paying for them. It's just insane. It's also insane that the Dodgers really needed to go out and spent north of $1 billion this offseason to beat the power of friendship, as we tweeted out, because you can't just look at this, all this to defeat the power of friendship, all this to defeat those 4 handsome, wholesome boys. Are you kidding me? Get out of here.
Yeah, and it's funny because, obviously we put this out and people loved it, but we were not the only people communicating this sentiment on Twitter last night. There was a bunch of people being like, wow, the Arizona Diamondbacks really made the Dodgers spend north of $1 billion just because of this
Hell
series.
Yeah, we did.
And we don't know exactly if the Dodgers, would the Dodgers really have not made these investments if they had gone past the Diamondbacks?
They scared, Jesse.
There's at least a chance that there's some validity to that. I don't know if I fully buy into it, but there's at least a chance that not just the lack of success in 2023 and not being able to go far, but, this is a thing that's obviously been a trend for a while. We heard in their negotiations with Ohtani that they very openly admitted that they view the last decade as a failure, even though they've won the NL West every single year except for one.
They should. They should consider it a failure, because that's the thing about this signing. That's what this does to this team. All of the pressure is on the Dodgers for them to succeed now. And if they don't, if they fall short, if they make it to the division series again and get beat by the Diamondbacks, get beat by the Padres, get beat by the Cincinnati Reds, it doesn't matter. They are a failure. It doesn't matter how far they go, how many games they win next season. They are a failure if they didn't win the World Series. And that level of pressure, I hope you're prepared for. They do have the guys there that I think are ready to shoulder that. But let's not forget that the Angels had Ohtani and Mike Trout, and just having those two guys, which are widely considered two of the best baseball players on the planet, was not enough for them to be successful.
The Angels-Dodgers comparison?
No, I'm not making the Angels-Dodgers comparison.
I don't know, Derek.
What I'm saying is that, again, the idea here, that's different, because they just had two superstars essentially, and they tried.
The Dodgers have a lot more than two superstars.
They have way more. They have two superstars just in their starting rotation, as far as their lineup is concerned, or their team is concerned. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the Dodgers are a purchased, assembled team of some of millionaires, right? And the one thing that you can't guarantee that they would be is a fucking connected team. And the Arizona Diamondbacks remain that, right? I talked about it on TPSB. So you've heard. There might be a shirt about it. But there is something to be said about Mike Hazen's comments today when asked about it, where he said, I don't really pay attention to that. He has to, I'm sure he does. I know he doesn't not pay attention to it, but he really, truly.
Mike actually, he didn't know that Yamamoto.
No, it was
he was
news
like,
to
oh,
him.
did they make another move?
There's the shirt. But it's not that he doesn't know, right? It's the mindset is more important of what he's talking about. He can't pay attention to what they do. He can't really let that all of a sudden dictate what he does, and now get all of a sudden panicky or start making moves that you wouldn't normally make just because now the Dodgers got Ohtani and Yamamoto, right? So from that perspective, I get it. There was also when Erod was signed, and he talked about the rivalries between the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox that he was a part of, and how there's those big names on the back of those jerseys. And in his mind, he's just a dude pitching against that. He's just a guy throwing a ball against that hitter. It really comes down to we covet these guys that we consider to be the superstars of the league, and then they end up earning these gigantic contracts. But in some cases, the gigantic contracts are what make them a superstar, in some cases above everybody else, because that guy makes a lot of money.
Right.
And then you look at his stats, we'll pull a guy that makes league minimum somewhere in the league that probably has similar stats. It's not to say that guy's not going to get paid eventually, but that's a young guy that's not reaching that contract level yet. And that's what baseball is. You literally have guys putting up the same statistics, and one guy's making $25 million, $30 million a year, and one guy's making less than $1 million. And that's how baseball is, right? So it doesn't scare me that the Diamondbacks now have to be in the division as the Dodgers, because I don't think we were ever really saying that this team is going to win the division.
That's fair. It's a fair point.
And they do have to play them much less than they used to have to play them, and that would have been
instead of 19.
That would have been a problem, right? So, but again, I just think that the Diamondbacks have the right attitude going forward, which is they can't be scared. They weren't scared last year. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts didn't really do much against them in the playoffs.
One for 21.
1 for 21, and I think it was an infield single, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So you don't scare me, Dodgers. You can sign all the guys you want to $1 billion contracts you want. We still have the power of friendship. We're still a connected team, and a connected team is a fucking dangerous team.
Baseball does still very clearly has the haves and the have-nots problem.
It's a huge problem.
And the Dodgers, what they've done this offseason is the epitome of that. There's no getting around the fact that the Dodgers can make these moves, and there's a lot of other teams that, as far as we can tell, do not have the ability to make these moves, the Diamondbacks likely included. Baseball's biggest redeeming quality in this regard, though, is that the playoffs are madness and the playoffs are random and anything can happen in the postseason. And so I don't know if this is really great. I've talked about how I don't love how big the postseason field is. I, in some ways, view that as a problem too. But it's sort of like the issue that baseball has, this equity issue where these teams do not have similar resources necessarily. That issue is counterbalanced by what I view as an issue of the postseason having this wide open field that makes it so that anything can happen.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are probably going to win well north of 100 games. Heck, they won 100 games this last year with a roster that I don't think was anywhere near as talented as the roster that they're going to have going into 2024. But still, when they get into the playoffs and they're probably going to have the bye and there's probably going to be more conversation about them taking a week off or whatever and the impact that that can have, at a certain point, the Dodgers are going to take the field against a likely inferior team in the postseason, and they are going to have a not insignificant chance of losing to that team in the first round. And even if they get past that team, they are going to have a not insignificant chance of losing in the next round, right?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the postseason. And I don't love either side of this for baseball, the inequity side or the expanded, random, crazy postseason side.
Yeah.
But in some ways, the two
teams
things kind of like actually work together a little bit.
It's a checks and balances system in a way, because yes, you have to be good, but guess what? Now once we're in the playoffs, anything can happen. It's the Wild West, that kind of thing.
And the D-backs are obviously huge beneficiaries of that. And in some ways, even though I don't like the concept of the playoff field being as big as it is, I think it is sort of necessary for baseball in order to counterbalance, the advantages that some of these big spending teams, really seem to have.
Well, remember what Zach Gallen said, we'll be back to ruin the party. So
that is what Zach Gallen said.
Never forget.
You do that, King Snipes. Go ahead and clip it.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
And I'll be dancing on the Dodgers' grave.
Wow. You see, this is why we keep Damon around. He's our dog. Yes, let's go. Well, we thank you guys, of course, for sticking around. We appreciate you guys being here. This is like one of those wonderful holiday days that I think a lot of people aren't working. Me and Jesse here in studio looking, incredible, if I might say myself. But one great way for you to solve your shopping problems, which this guy still has, I know, stop by Shady Rays here in town at the Kierland Commons location, which is a full-stop shop for all things Shady Rays. Pick your loved ones up a pair of sunglasses that is, of course, a world-class product, just as good as expensive sunglasses, and comes with the most insane protection plan in all of eyewear, where every pair of sunglasses is backed by their lost and broken replacement plan. If you lose or break your pair of Shady Rays, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked at all. They have your back long after you purchase. Exclusively for our listeners, you can also get Shady Rays online, and they are giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And now that we are through the spending, unless you're Jesse, maybe you can get your finances back on track.
A lot of work to do.
I know you do. I know you do.
But it's great, Derek. I'm gonna be forced to make quick decisions, and it's gonna be way more efficient than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah,
so
and you're gonna put so much thought into those gifts for your loved ones that do so much for you. But of course, you can do something for yourself and check out Desert Financial Credit Union, which for more than 84 years has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. That got me started on my home ownership journey. And I love coming home to that place. It's my little abode. And you can get started on yours as well. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. When you open a free checking account online right now, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 today. Well, sir, I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend.
Yeah, you're just gonna up and leave me now.
Oh yeah, I should say a holiday week without me. So good luck with all of that. Me and Ken Rosenthal are going to hang out at some point and drink coquito together. But of course, we hope you guys have a wonderful week as well. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Be safe out there. Make sure you guys enjoy your time with your loved ones. I know I talk a lot about being stressed out about it, but we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So make sure to enjoy that time with your loved ones. We hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at @cap_caveman with a K. this absolute maniac next to me. You can check in on him shopping. He's at Jesse N. Friedman. Damon is a good boy. He got all of his shopping done, but I bet stuff isn't wrapped yet. You can follow him on Twitter at Damon Dog.
No,
That's
me and
D-A-W-G.
Damon totally see eye to eye on this. We've been on the same page the whole time.
Damon, are you a procrastinator too?
Oh, big time. I needed
bitch.
like 3 presents to get, and I have one of them.
Oh no!
Yeah, we're in a
doing?
similar boat, Damon.
Oh,
That makes
Jesse,
sense.
you want to hit the mall after this?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
No,
That's
we have to wait.
disgusting
We
me.
have to wait until Sunday at least, Damon. Today, this
Oh.
is way too early.
I'm having a panic attack just hearing you guys say that. Of course, we are still Damon's dogs, even when we don't agree on shopping. Bark, bark. Our show's at PHNX_D-backs, but of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate you guys. Ski to you all. Merry ski miss to you all.
Can I just say real quick?
No.
There will be no show on Monday.
Correct.
Because Monday
It's
is Christmas. And as much as I know all of you are dying for Mailbag Monday in the middle of Christmas.
Escape their families to listen
yeah,
to Jesse.
We
yeah,
gotta take
we-
one
we-
odd day off.
Yeah, so we're not going to do a show on Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday at 1 p.m. and then we will also have a Saturday show. So you'll still get 5 shows from us next week, but we're just scooting everything down a day. And Derek is ditching all of us. So
I am. That is correct.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you guys. I thank you for stopping by, not just now, but all year long. We appreciate you guys for being a part of this wagon. We thank you so much for your time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you have the power of friendship.
We all silly like the mayor.